Thank you so much, Joel and Simone. I often think about the university's responsibility to their city to share educational and cultural resources, and have been really happy to find that UNC and Duke special collections are open to the public, at least for researchers. And as a trans artist and feminist scholar, I'm also very curious about the kind of support makerspaces can provide me with, mostly in terms of making books and resource guides. So I'm just going to get into it. My name is Shiloh Jines. I'm pursuing a degree in library science with a focus on trans and gender nonconforming special collections and archives, and also feminist visual art and librarianship. For the past year, I've worked as a special collections intern at the Sally Bingham Center for Women's History and Culture, and this has informed my approach to librarianship and thinking of the profession as a feminist practice. So today, I will be sharing my approach and experiences with institutional diversity and access. So recently, I attended the feminist theory workshop at Duke University, and I saw Sayak Valencia, a queer activist and Mexican trans feminist, speak, and she gave this incredible definition of trans feminism. As I move forward in the field of library science, I am thinking with this framework and hoping that I can share it with others. So I'm just going to read a little bit from this. The trans feminist movements record and work towards the common goal of sustainability of life, to complexify the relationships among genders and de essentialize the subjects of feminism, so that there's no longer only the white, cis, heterosexual, able bodied woman. So, before I move forward too much talking about access, I'd like to share these definitions of diversity, accessibility, equity, and inclusion. Now, while I don't agree with these definitions exactly, I think it's a useful visual when thinking about access. It shows how these critical frameworks work together as part of a continuum and as a cycle. They are constantly changing, evolving, and also informing one another. We can't think about access without thinking about equity, inclusion, and diversity at the same time. So, why did I gravitate towards the idea of access in academic libraries? As a non binary, neurodivergent disabled person who's working in special collections predominantly, I believe it's extremely important to share and preserve the stories of trans and gender nonconforming people, along with many different kinds of marginalized and oppressed people. UNC, Chapel Hill, and SILS are one of the few Southern library science programs that offer the politics, space, and resources to do this particular kind of work. I don't think that it's by chance that women of color, trans, and disabled students are working within this library science program and have been in many of my classes, even if the numbers are relatively low. I think access matters to me because, in some cases, having access to stories, archives, art, and leadership from individuals who are also queer, trans, black, indigenous, mixed race, disabled, autistic, it goes on, right? Like, this could mean saving a life or just like permanently changing the quality of an individual's life forever. I'd like to share this SILS mission statement with you today and also the UNC Chapel Hill Library's diversity statement. I'm not going to take the time to read them out today, but I hope that you all will be invited to take some more time on your own and revisit these statements and think about what your role might be um, in creating this kind of inclusive, open, and equitable environment for people, and also working as stewards to improve the quality of life for diverse local, national, and global communities. So, with the diversity and mission statement in mind, how might we be able to build inclusive, equitable communities within the field of academic librarianship? These are just some suggestions. This is what has worked for me, and I find that sometimes having a starting place can make a difference. So develop your critical thinking skills, right? This one seems straightforward, but I think it's super important. Respect and value yourself as an individual within a community. So playing an active role in sharing your skills, knowledge, and expertise. Learn culturally diverse perspectives and become an advocate or an ally without centering your own feelings. When you can, when you have the energy and the bandwidth, truly show up and speak up and endeavor to listen and learn as much as you speak. And then, of course, once you learn those critical thinking skills, do your best to actually apply them. Consider cultural competency as you learn and move through your world and how you have relationships with people in your life. And then, of course, make time to reflect on your commitments. You can do the work, but you also need to rest. I think it's super important, especially in grad school when we're all working extremely hard to get to where we need to be reminded to rest because you cannot do the work that you need to do without taking time to rest. And I just want to take this moment to say, diversity, advocacy, intersectional feminism, disability justice, they're not just for marginalized people. I think librarians are in a unique position as stewards of knowledge to cultivate equity minded values of respect, integrity, and trust within um, their workplace, the communities they serve, and for the future. I'd like for you all to seriously consider becoming a diversity advocate if you are working within library science. It often falls on the people who are most marginalized to do this kind of work because they believe it's their responsibility, and oftentimes others believe that this kind of work does not apply to them or doesn't benefit them. Um, Now, if it isn't an option for you to pursue the diversity advocate certificate, there's a lot of other places that you can start. You can visit the Equity in the Making Lab. There's an incredible artist book exhibit up in the Wilson Library. It's called Every Book a Mirror. And then, of course, there's CTAP, and there's the Safe Zone program, and there's also the Haynes Lecture Series in bibliography. So, when we consider access to academic libraries in terms of improving the quality of life for marginalized individuals, what kind of support, skills, and relationships are necessary for this kind of work? I think to work through these kinds of questions, it's super helpful to kind of make your own bibliography that serves as a kind of ethical guidelines. And lastly, if you are looking for guidance or support in your critical thinking and institutional journey, I think these individuals are great. Thank you all so much for your time today, and please reach out if you're interested in connecting. And I'll hand it off to my colleague Stephanie, who will be discussing aspects of access with rural communities. And as a Southern Appalachian myself, this conversation is near and dear to my heart.